we don't want to discourage people from joining public service. Some people we do want to discourage from joining public service, as a matter of fact. I'm pretty sure of that. If you think that a position of power and trust is a place for you to abuse people and get away with it without accountability, then I do not want you in a position of power and trust. Hello to our friends up on the balcony there. There's a good chunk of you up there. Sorry, I don't think I'll walk all the way up the steps. Hope that's all right. When I had these arguments with folks in both parties, and they gave me these answers, I didn't say, oh, okay, I guess we'll just keep doing it the way you're always doing it. You know, I could have done that, and it's not like anybody's reading chapter 669 on a regular basis to say, hey, hold on a second, how come you're not doing this? I didn't have to make life awkward for myself. I didn't have to make powerful people in both parties mad at me for pointing this out and pushing them on it. No, instead I voted no and said we should go along with these settlements all by myself. That did make life awkward for me. It did make it harder for me to do other things that I wanted to do, but doing my job the right way demanded that I do that, didn't it? And you know what? You know how I felt when those people in powerful positions in both parties were mad at me? I could not have cared less. I have been pissing off powerful people in both parties on your behalf as your state auditor. I'd love to continue to do that as your governor. I think that that's important. We also, in my first term as state auditor, uncovered a record amount of misspent money across the state of Iowa. We did that because I actually appointed to the senior deputy positions in the office an independent and a Republican who had made campaign contributions to my opponent. People who really love politics say, Sam, you're doing it wrong. You're supposed to punish the people opposed to you. That's how you get them to be scared of you. I got two answers to that. Number one, how is anyone ever going to be scared of me? Look at this face. Number two, more seriously, what if I'm not trying to do politics? What happened to the idea of public service? The election is over, and the winner says to the loser, hey, send some of your people over. I need some help. And you guys, you're mostly wrong, but not entirely. And a broken clock is right twice a day. I want you to be there to point out when every once in a while it might not be quite perfect. So we uncovered a record amount of misspent money because we had people who think differently from each other working together, right? Then the legislature came to town and said, we can't have that. And despite bipartisan opposition, they made it so that we can't really do our job anymore. They can block us from looking at stuff. Anybody here ever got audited and said, okay, here's the stack of papers that you can look at, and you can't look at these ones over here? No, and you can laugh because you know that that's a stupid idea. And yet your state government made it the law. Every single government watchdog in America that weighed in on this law, and there were scores of them. Democrats, Independents, Republicans, 100% of them said this is a bad idea. It will lead to an increase in waste, fraud, and abuse of tax dollars. They did it anyway. They did it anyway because it's a little private club that isn't really serving Iowans anymore. It's focused on insiders and special interest groups. Right? How did we get here? How did we get to the point where in Iowa, historically a bastion of good government, I just described for you a law that sounds like it came from Illinois? I'll tell you how. One of the same issues they have in Illinois. Too few people with too much power for too long. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. We've had 10 years of one-party control in Iowa. And where did we get to? The point where we are 48th on average for personal income growth. And we are number one last year, number two this year for cancer growth. And our education system, which when I was growing up in Decorah was always at the top of the pack, is now literally in the bottom half. And they're running around going, guys, we got a real problem. The state auditor won't quit doing his job. We've got to find a way to stop him. That's what their priority is Because it's a little club of people who are focused on serving insiders and special interest groups, not Iowans. And they think that if they lie and demonize their opponents enough, that they can get half of their constituents to feel trapped into voting for them. I think we can do better than that. When I think of this story, it really kind of makes me burn, and it reminds me of a story from the New Testament. Jesus, normally super nice guy, right? Love your enemy, feed the hungry, heal the sick. But he got super angry one time. He saw the money changers at the temple abusing their power, taking advantage of a position of power and trust in order to benefit themselves, and he flipped their tables over and sent them packing. There's tables that need flipping in Des Moines, Mahaska County. I need your help in doing that over the next 2.5 months. I want to get us back to an Iowa tradition, common sense government, divided government, solving the world's problems. Right? This is the reality. If I win this race, I'm going to be working with the Republican legislature. If that's news to you, good afternoon. You slept in. It's 2026. I don't know what year you fell asleep in, but they have large majorities in the legislature. Okay. Well, if they work with me as governor, then every bill that passes is going to have bipartisan support. Every budget that passes is going to have bipartisan support. And we're going to be in a place where we are in a very good spot in terms of making sure that the directions we're moving in are the things that the vast majority of Iowans can say, yeah, okay, that's better than what we're doing now. This is an Iowa tradition. We didn't send Tom Harkin and Chuck Grassley to the United States Senate together for decades because we mistakenly thought that they were in the same party. We sent them there together because we knew they balance each other out. 30 of my first 34 years alive, we had divided government in Des Moines, meaning out of the governor's office, the Iowa House, and the Iowa Senate, each party had control of one of the three, and they had to work together. And I heard a Republican and a Democratic legislative leader say together, we do our best work when we are forced to work together. Forced to by the people of the state of Iowa. I know, common sense, right? One of my favorite parts of my town halls is where I say something so mind-numbingly mundane and painfully obvious, and yet it's something you never hear in politics. The people are like, finally, and they clap for it. Common sense, people to working together. It shouldn't be an applause line, and yet here we are. Welcome to 2026, folks, right? I know that we can do better than this. I know we can. That divided government, it'll restore checks and balances. I'm sure the legislature is going to be very interested in a powerful state auditor that can actually do their job if I'm the governor. In fact, I'll bet the oversight committees will finally realize that they can do oversight of state government too. By the time you leave this event today, you will have spent more time in this one town hall than the legislative oversight committees spend overseeing state government per year. Less than an hour per year overseeing state government. Because right now they look across at the governor, which is supposed to be a co-equal branch of government, and they see their political boss, and they say, oh, we don't do oversight of you. That's wrong, and I think we can fix it. I don't think it's complicated. And that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about when I say I want our state not to be redder or bluer, just better and truer. Happy to take your questions, Mahaska County. Thanks for being here. I'll start with something that is really important. We can talk about Democrats and Republicans listening to each other. I can say that out loud, but talk is cheap, right? St. Francis of Assisi said, preach the gospel at all times. When necessary, use words. That's because actions speak louder than words. So let me instead hand the microphone to someone that said they were a Republican. One of you two guys is a registered Republican, right? They're both looking at each other like, not you. Look, do you have any microphone's yours. I'm glad you're here, I mean it. And if you have questions for me, whether it's something that you brought in on your mind or if it's something later on, whether it's your hesitation on why you want to vote, might want to not vote for me or whatever, you're here and you can raise your hand and you can have the microphone too. Were you a registered Republican? Let her talk. Okay.
Okay, so I'm the principal at Oskaloosa Elementary School here in town. And this morning, we were 2 teachers short for the school year. And by noon, we were 3 teachers short for the school year. So my question is, how do we make the teaching profession in Iowa one that young people want to go into? A sustainable career where they can support themselves, their families, and where they feel respected and valued, instead of being made to feel greedy for asking to be paid to do their work. So yeah, what can the state level do to help our local schools be a place where great teachers want to come, and most importantly, want
I know that folks in your community are counting on you. We're counting on Iowa Public Schools too. My 2 boys go to Iowa Public Schools. They're right here in Iowa, and this is important to us. We're counting on Iowa Public Schools too. What can we do? Let's start with this. We've had 10 years of one-party control. Some of the senior leadership in that party a couple of years ago was running around calling them all sinister teachers. Now I'm running against an opponent who has said that there are Marxists who have hijacked the curriculum in the state of Iowa. 10 years of one-party control, and he's saying that. Does anybody here think that Kim Reynolds is a Marxist?
Not sure.
What about the folks that are running the legislature, that are passing the laws in Iowa? Are they secret, undercover Marxists? Right, so I say that to say this. How well do you work with somebody that just says things like that about the work that you do? It's not exactly the easiest. It's a lot better if you start from a basis of respect. Well, let's even say this. You start from a basis of reality. The reality is that we've had 10 years of one-party control. Now, I was proud to get the endorsement of Iowa teachers, but when I took that endorsement, I told them the same thing I tell everyone else. You will not get 100% of what you want from me. I didn't leave my independent mind behind, right? My kids don't get 100% of what they want from me, and I love them more than I love you, no offense. So we have to start from a basis of respect and reality, of understanding what's going on in Iowa public schools. I might have a better perspective of that because my kids are in Iowa public schools. I might have a better perspective of that because I'm in Iowa all the time. Let's move on from there. They did a beginning teacher pay hike recently in the legislature. That is good. But they paid for it by cutting pay increases for experienced teachers. And one of the things that we know about teaching is no matter where you started, if you were one of the best, if you were one of the not best, you are much better at it than when you started if you've been doing it for 2, 3, 4 years. And so what they did is they gave people a reason to start in Iowa, which is great, but when you start is when you're not quite as good. And then they gave them a reason to leave once they're better. That's not helpful for Iowa public schools. That's not helpful for my boys, who recently watched one of their favorite teachers leave the state. One of the favorites for our older, our younger, never had the pleasure. So we need to increase pay for our experienced teachers and make sure that they too are being paid a wage that is respectful of the work they do and competitive with other states. I also want us to make sure that we're giving them the tools that they need in the classroom to succeed. Our older boy got a computer. I don't know that every kid needs their own computer. I do think that there's technology that can be useful. There is no teacher alive, no human being alive, by the way, that can keep 30 kids in a classroom at just the right reading level for them every single day of the week. Anybody here remember reading a book that was too hard to read when they were learning to read? Okay, phew, I thought I was the only one. It's so frustrating, isn't it? Right? You want to be right at that kind of Goldilocks level, where the words are coming easily enough that you're seeing the picture play in your mind, and you're building confidence that I can read. And at the same time, you're bumping into words that you don't know to force you every once in a while to learn those new words. That's kind of like in that Goldilocks zone. Same thing for math. there is sort of this place where you want to miss some of the questions, but not all of them, because you're building the confidence that you can do math, and at the same time, you're getting challenged to learn more of it. AI is an incredible tool that we can use to help our paraeducators and our teachers do that for 30 kids all at once. Because they can't, no human can keep 30 kids there. But if we're giving them the tools that are effective to do that, then our kids are going to be learning at a much faster rate. I think that's important. So if we have good pay, if we have a basis of respect and a shared understanding of reality, and if we have effective tools for our teachers and paraeducators, our public schools are going to work a lot better for our kids and for the folks in them. Thanks for the work you do.
Question in the back?
Whoop, we got someone with a microphone here.
Hey Rob, you mentioned earlier, you talked about cancer rates in Iowa and water quality. I want to ask you a question about Iowa, and you're familiar with it. What are your plans to get that funded? And also, do you see it as an opportunity to strengthen rural economies through outdoor recreation?
Yes and yes. Iowa, if you're not familiar, Iowa voted on this in 2010. It's Iowa's Water and Land Legacy. It was a question probably on the back half of your ballot. It's a constitutional amendment saying, do we want to have a trust fund that's actually going to make sure that we have clean water and good outdoor recreation opportunities? 63% of Iowans voted for this 16 years ago. And you wonder, well, hold on a second. We're 49th for public land and we got dirty water. Why is that? If we voted for that 16 years ago, I've got an answer for you. Because our government is run by a tiny number of people who are focused on serving insiders and special interest groups, not Iowans, and so they haven't funded the trust. It's just an empty bank account sitting there, and it's a constitutional amendment just sitting there in our Constitution with nothing behind it. Shame on them. Shame on them. People said that they wanted this 16 years ago. And now they run around saying, oh, we're making progress on water quality. I mean, technically speaking, a snail is making progress. But if that snail is supposed to be delivering to my children clean water and more outdoor recreational opportunities, I am not satisfied with it. So, I think that we should fund Iowa. And I think that one of the things that we can do with it is greatly expand outdoor recreation opportunities. Here's the number one thing that we can do to address water quality and make it easier to go play outside. I want the biggest single restoration of wetlands that we have ever seen in the state of Iowa. Here's why. There is nothing that filters water better than a wetland. Nothing. We should do more cover crops. We should support that. We should support doing more bioreactors, more saturated buffers, more grass waterways. Those are all good. But none of them are as good as a wetland. Not only that, but wetlands are fun, right? You can float, you can fish, you can photograph. I'm still trying to think of a way to describe duck hunting that starts with an F. But you can do that too. You can go for a hike. But outdoor recreation opportunities, like I was saying at the beginning, are one of those things that everybody should have the right to do. They should have the right to be out there in God's creation, enjoying nature. And if we do that, we can get water a heck of a lot cleaner in the state of Iowa. This is one of those places where we've got very specific plans on our website, robsand.com. I want to do a reverse auction. Ask landowners what's the lowest price you will take for your wettest wet spot. Tell us what the coordinates are for it, and overlay that with a GIS map of the highest need and highest impact areas for turning land into wetlands. And then buy where we can get our best bang for our buck. We should take a watershed-focused approach on this, because that's how you can have the clearest measurement to have accountability for how much cleaner your water is getting. And if we do that, we can clean our water up and do it pretty quickly by funding the trust. Top priority. Who else has got a question? question was, can I rescind the law that limited our ability to do our job? The answer is not unilaterally. But again, this is a place where checks and balances will resurface, right? They passed this law because they didn't want me to do my job. Because the governor, again, they look at as someone who is above them, as their party leader. Well, if the governor is someone they look at the way they're supposed to in the Constitution, as just someone who's a co-equal branch of government, and we take their partisanship and we put it to work for you, I bet that they're just going to want to reverse that law if I'm the governor, won't they? Then all of a sudden they're going to be like, hey, we should have a state auditor that can really look at things and can't be told to go away. That's important. And I'll say, correct. Remember that law you passed? Undo it. Or maybe I'll say, oh no, whatever you do, don't undo that law. And then they'll want to do it. You might need reverse psychology, I don't know. But yeah, I think they're going to want to undo it. And then your second question was on the school vouchers. Look, I'm going to be working with the Republican legislature. It's largely the same legislature that passed that bill. So I am proposing things that I think the vast majority of Iowans in any political party actually can be supportive of. Here's what I'm talking about. For starters, the law says that all the money has to get paid as tuition until tuition is covered. You've probably noticed that tuition rates have skyrocketed. So, if all the money is getting paid as tuition, how are private schools restricted in what they can spend your money on? The answer is, basically they're not. There's one thing they can't do. They can't pay a rebate. Anything else on God's green earth, they can do because it's legal. The only thing they can't do is pay a rebate. And we're not allowed to audit how they spend the money, so we're not even able to find out how they're spending the money. I know that there are a lot of things that public schools can get in trouble for if they spend your money on it. And I know that public schools get an audit every single year. So I'm proposing that if a private school is taking public money, they have financial rules for how they spend it, and they get audited every single year. That sounds like common sense, doesn't it? These folks have said they like the idea of school choice. Let's find out if that's really true. Here's an idea. If you take public money, you have to take the public, because that's school choice. If you take public money and you take the public, then all of a sudden the students can actually say, hey, I want to go to your school. Whereas right now, they can pick and choose which students they allow in. That isn't school choice. So if you meant what you said, let's have it. Here's another one. Right now, if tuition is whatever amount it is, and you start getting $7,500 from the state for each student, private schools are allowed to jack up tuition by the full $7,500, which makes the sticker price the same for everybody, meaning it's no more affordable than it was in the first place. So we should limit that. You shouldn't be able to just jack up tuition by the same amount you get from the state, because this law is here to promote school choice, isn't it? And then we should put an income limit on who can qualify for it, so it's not just people who make more than $1 million. The folks who have had 10 years of one-party control have brought us to the point where we have a $1.3 billion reoccurring annual budget deficit. We cannot be giving hundreds of millions of dollars to the folks who are already easily affording to send their kids to private school just to keep doing the thing that they were going to pay to do anyway. If we would do those things, then the whole state of Iowa, in terms of our education system, would be in a very better position than what we're doing right now. Then we could see where we are in a year or two and have another conversation. Who else has got something for me?
I do.
Yeah, you. Go for it.
Hi, Rob. I am a professor here at Belin University, just up the road. I'm also Gen Z. I spend my days with other young adults that are becoming professionals here in Iowa, and there is obviously an issue of Gen Z are not staying in Iowa. What goals do you have to help keep our young professionals here in the state and in government?
Well, look at that. Penny, it's heads up. And it's my birthday. birthday tomorrow. And there's an attack on my birthday tomorrow. Good things must be coming. Great question. Crazy idea. I think if you want to convince people that Iowa is the best place to work, and the best place to live, and the best place to raise your family, then you should be doing all of those things in the state of Iowa. That is an important contrast to this campaign. Otherwise, people are going to hear you say those things, and they're going to go, but you're not doing that. Credibility does matter. When I say those things, I mean it. And you know I mean it because I do it just the same way I hand a Republican over, a microphone over to a Republican. I raise my kids here. My kids go to Iowa public schools. I live here. I work here. So having a credible messenger that is a believer in the state of Iowa and you can judge me by my actions on it, not just my words, makes a big difference. How else do we do it? Well, I was having a conversation with a guy the other day who said his daughter was just graduating from University of Iowa Medical School. Family practice specialty, so the kind of person that you're hoping is going to settle in town and be your doctor for the next 30 years, right? The front door person you visit every year. His daughter and himself were both shocked at the number of her classmates who had no interest in practicing medicine in the state of Iowa because of the political climate. This probably isn't surprising to people, right? We have real problems that impact 100% of Iowans in this state. Water quality, cancer, an economic crisis, high costs, corruption. What are they doing in Des Moines? They're running bills to make people feel unwelcome in the state of Iowa because they're different. They're running a bill they literally passed, and my opponent's lieutenant governor candidate voted for, defunding water quality monitors in the state of Iowa. Their definition of water quality problem is the people know that it's dirty. We should make it harder for the people to know that it's dirty. This is the kind of stuff that we need to end, and if we have divided government in the state of Iowa, we will know that at the end of the day, we should be passing the bills 100% of our legislative time into issues that impact 100% of Iowans. Make this a place where people feel welcome. It's not just that you're making people feel welcome if it's who they are. There's also people that leave this state because their state government is telling them, hey, we don't know who your kids are going to turn out to be. But it could be that they might be the kind of people where they grow up in a state and then learn that that state's laws make them feel unwelcome in the place that they grew up in and love. And so people leave for that reason, knowing I'm going to love my kid no matter who they are, and I want them to be raised in a state that's going to love them back, or at least treat them like any other person. That's common sense stuff, and that's what winning this race means for us. Eli raised his hand and said, no, you got it. I'm just telling, he says last question, which means at least 2 more questions.
Okay, registered Republican.
All right.
Flock cameras, Axon cameras. I will see that they're a great tool for catching illegal activity. But we've also seen a lot of misuse with them. We've seen a lot of unsafe installation practices. How do we hold those companies, those cities that are putting these in account?
Sure. So, look, I've seen some of the same stuff, and I share your concerns, right? You've got people who are tracking people, stalking people, using that access. Those are real problems. We need to have accountability for those problems. Right now, the stuff that we're talking about that I want to do at the state level is the stuff that we know is a statewide problem, right? It hasn't been getting attention. Water quality, cancer, our economy. I'm a big believer in local control on a lot of issues. This is one of those issues where right now, today, I'm looking around and I'm thinking, look, number one, there's a market for this. Flock has been sort of the biggest problem in the media in terms of a system that's getting abused. But there's other companies that have other systems. And if they can provide a bid to a city and they can say, hey, look, these concerns about privacy don't really apply to us because here's why we're different than Flock, then the market can solve that problem. And we should let the market solve that problem. Here's the other thing. I'm a big believer in local control. Cities and counties and school districts should be able to have different rules and different plans and different vendors from each other. Because when they can do things differently, 3 things happen. Number one, every community, its own leaders know it better than people in Des Moines do. And so what's going to work in Oskaloosa isn't going to be the same as Atoma, isn't going to be the same as Osceola. Because these are different places with different strengths and weaknesses. And so you let people at the local level make a decision because they know their community best. Number two, when you let people make different decisions, you end up seeing different outcomes, and because you're allowing experimentation, you can figure out some paths where you go, oh, that's a lot better. And so because we're letting you do that, maybe that works well. Then number three, your local elected officials are a whole lot more accountable to you than your state or federal ones, my goodness. Right? I do 100 public town halls every year, and you have my word that I'm going to continue to do it in the same way if I'm your governor. But when was the last time you had a U.S. senator or your governor tell you at least 2 weeks in advance, hey, I'm going to be here at this date and time. Come on in and ask me questions. Right, but you can find your local elected officials. Do we have any here today? Okay. I mean, if they did, no matter where they are in this room, you'd have them surrounded, wouldn't you? And so the idea is you can have higher level of accountability at that local level. And if you end up with places where you feel like you don't like the policy, and you can't get them to change it locally, it doesn't mean that you have to uproot your entire life either. Maybe you end up saying, well, I'm going to move to a different school district, I'm going to move to a different county. We can have a little bit of experimentation. I think the concerns are fair. I think right now, we can let the market and local government work on it. We'll see where we go. One more?
Hi, Rob. Glad you're here. I'd like to know what your plan is for property taxes.
On property taxes, the legislature just passed the biggest reorganization and reform of property tax that we have seen in decades. And so I'm about to say something very conservative. We need to know where we are before we decide where we should go. This law literally just got passed. It was one of the last things they did this legislative session. In fact, most of the folks, I've heard from many of the people who voted for this law that they didn't really have a chance to read it first. So no doubt there are problems in it. But if we haven't even had 1 year under this new property tax bill, then I think our prudent decision at this point is, let's put our time into addressing things that we have been dealing with for a long time, our cancer crisis, our high costs, our corruption. And then when we've had a year, 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, we can begin to see how the property rights law, top law is operating, and we can start making the changes that we need to make sure it's addressing it and fixing the issues, right? I know that might sound conservative. I think it's important to be governed by reality and not ideology. So you might get someone who can say, oh, well, I know they did this reform, but I know exactly how that's going to work and they need to make these changes. Good for you. I doubt it at the end of the day. Let's see if we can do another one. That was kind of short. Did I have somebody? You had your hand up a minute ago.
My question is, you talked about water quality, but specifically about cancer and causes of cancer. One of our esteemed local state elected officials claims that spinach is more dangerous than any agricultural impact from big agriculture. What will we do to specifically address what's causing our dramatic rise in cancer?
Thank you. Good question. To be totally transparent with you all, I want to confirm that I was brainwashed by Popeye. And I still think that spinach is good for you. Okay? You're asking about the tie between cancer and water quality. It's there. Some of the stuff in our water has no doubt given us cancer and making us sick in other ways. We know that nitrates cause cancer. We can have conversations about what level that happens at, but we get readings in Iowa that are oftentimes higher than even the most lax of the standards. So we got to do something there. A couple of things that we need to be doing. Number one, farmers are signing up for conservation programs to reduce runoff, and politicians are telling them, sorry, program's full, we'll put you on the wait list, because the politicians aren't supporting the program. That should end. If people are signing up and saying, hey, I want to do better, I'm going to put my own money in, but I need to have a cost share because I got to make ends meet at the end of the day, then we should be making sure there's space in the program for it. My lieutenant governor pick is a guy who was doing cover crops with the cost share program, and he was losing money doing it even after the cost share. But then for some weird bureaucratic reason, he was told he couldn't participate anymore. And he'd have been happy to keep doing them, but he could lose some money doing them, he couldn't lose all the money. Farm income has dropped 50% recently. 50%. So we should be making sure those programs are open and they can do that. We should be doing a wetlands reinvestment and restoration. We should expand the Working Hands program. That's one where we help farmers take some of the more highly erodible land and convert it to grazing land. Because grazing land also very effective at filtering water. And if we allow them to graze on it, instead of just having to put it into pasture or prairie that you're not allowed to graze on, they're not necessarily taking a hit on profitability. And if we encourage them with local and regional food systems bills to move those livestock into food for our kids in our public classrooms, we can actually keep money in our rural economies, help beginning farmers have a more consistent source of income, and they can then capitalize on that source of income to help expand their operation if they want to, get more farmers back out on the land. There's a lot of this stuff that's pretty simple. Here's one of the things my opponent believes on cancer. He thinks that we should ban some of the most promising cancer treatments in development. He doesn't know what the cancer is or how many people it's killing, but he thinks it's something that the FDA might approve in 6 months or a year is something that you shouldn't even be allowed to take. I disagree with that. I think that we should be paying attention to what's going on in Iowa and listening to Iowans and addressing the issues that Iowans are facing. He also wants to poo-poo the idea of radon as contributing to our cancer crisis. He says, well, the radon's always been there. That's not it. Well, if we're serious about curing cancer, I think we want to cure every kind of cancer, don't we? And he said, oh, and yes, but the difference is, while the radon may have always been there, we have a new built environment around us right now, don't we? And our houses that we live in now are much more tightly insulated than they used to be, aren't they? And our basements are so much better to spend time in than they used to be, aren't they? And so, actually, while the radon may have always been there, the houses that we live in now helps it concentrate, meaning that we have higher exposure levels. And yes, we do need to do something about that, not just poo-poo it. If we want to fight cancer, we want to fight every form of it. I think this is common sense stuff, and it's one of the distinctions between me and my opponent in this case. Eli's really letting me have it with the signs he's waving, so we did 2 extra, and I'll wrap it up like he told me to, because IA Captain. I want to go to one thing that I haven't said yet. It's really important. I do want to talk for 2 minutes about my opponent. We've contrasted a little bit right there. We've not mentioned him much. There's one thing you need to know about him more than anything else. And I'm asking you, please never forget this throughout this entire campaign. My opponent is a human being. God bless him. I wish the best for him. We shouldn't forget that. At the same time, I still think that I'm the better option for Iowa out of the 2 of us in this campaign for governor. And I can tell you why in a way that isn't unnecessarily antagonistic and is honest. Here's the bottom line. You all asked me about a lot of really important issues. Governor is the single most full-time job in the state of Iowa for 3.1 million people, and this guy is trying to convince people that he can do it better while he mails it in from Kansas. You need to have a full-time Iowan to be a full-time governor. That to me is common sense. I think the facts on this are actually important. He's lived outside of Iowa most of the last 20 years, voted in Kansas in 2018, voted in Kansas in 2020, voted in Kansas in 2022. He had started a private school down there, living down there. Prior to that, he was working in politics in Kansas and in Montana and in Colorado. Decade as a paid political operative. He re-registered to vote in Iowa in October of 2024. Just in time to argue that he meets the residency requirement for running for governor. But then after he launched his campaign for governor, the plane that he travels in actually spent 75 nights in Wichita, Kansas to 51 nights in Belle Plaine, Iowa. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm a numbers guy. And I'm pretty sure that 75 is more than 51. And I'm pretty comfortable saying it's 24 more than 51. And if you want to tell me where you live, I'm still going to look at the numbers on what the answer is. Now, when he was asked about this the first time, he was a little bit more open about it than he has been since then. He said, well, if I get elected governor, I'll have to change my living situation, but I'll be in Iowa as much as humanly possible. That is a statement that tells you he knows he's not going to be here all the time. He'll be here as much as humanly possible. Newsflash. The maximum amount of time that you can be in Iowa is actually all the time. It's actually just all the time. You can just be here all the time. So as much as humanly possible. But we don't use that expression when we're talking about that stuff, right? Anybody here ever say, I'll do it as much as humanly possible to describe something they're totally going to do 100% of the time? No. No, we don't. Anybody here use that phrase to describe doing anything that's going to be easy for you to do? No. I mean, that's just not what those words mean, right? The reason that I think this is important is because we have real problems in this state. It doesn't matter why he's in Kansas. What matters is that he isn't here for 3.1 million people when they are putting him potentially in the most powerful office in the state. He's running around saying, I can do that job for you part-time better than anyone else can do it full-time. I just don't think that's true.
No.
All right? I don't want to, we can get into other issues. We've talked a little bit about him on his views on cancer. We've talked about his views on education. Enough. I think we covered enough ground. I'm glad we spent most of the time talking about this campaign and where we are in Iowa and where we need to go. If you think that the idea of getting state government to make everybody work together and lean on each other and recognize when a broken clock is right twice a day sounds good to you, great. If you think that the idea of getting rules around politicians for what they do is a good idea, great. That's why we're centering the idea of ending the special legal privileges of the Democratic and Republican parties. They shouldn't be able to force us to pick between the lesser of two evils. We should have term limits. We should have age limits. We should ban stock trading by elected officials. We should make mandatory prison time for people who steal from taxpayers. Before you get your name on the ballot. If you don't succeed, study. I believe in you. You can get it the next time around. This isn't complicated. One of my MAGA supporters sent me a quote not that long ago. It's a Daniel Webster quote that I love, and so I keep talking about it. He said, the proper role of government is to make it easy for people to do good and hard for people to do bad. Amen. Let's focus that on politicians.
Amen.
The Lord's Prayer, right? Lead us not into temptation. Let's apply that to politicians. Let's not lead them into temptation to spend their hours serving their friends and their special interest groups. They should be serving us. Let's get back to making state government do what Iowans do. This isn't a foreign concept, right? You do it every day. My grandpa was doing it at 6 a.m. at Hardee's Coffee, and then he was doing it at 7 a.m. at McDonald's Coffee. My mom's doing it in her quilting group, and my mom's doing it in her knitting group. And you do it every time. You sit down, and you visit with your neighbors, and you talk about the weather a little bit, and you catch up on each other's lives, and you hear how everybody's doing. And then the news comes up, and you chat about that a little bit, and then you realize that even the people that vote differently from you oftentimes say things that you agree with, actually. And that we're not as divided as these two private clubs want us to be. And then you walk away, and somebody asks you, what did you talk about at coffee hour? And you say, just solving the world's problems. I want state government to be solving the world's problems the way that Iowans do in Mahaska County and everywhere else. You don't ask people on their way in the door, sorry, what party are you in? When the table fills up and everyone's got a seat, you don't say, okay, raise your hand for which party are you in? And then you tell the minority party, okay, zip it. The rest of us will do the solving of the world's problems. No, we listen to everybody because we're Iowans, right? This isn't complicated stuff. We know, we have the humility to understand there's no one person or party that has all the right answers. And then at the end of the day, even the people that you think are mostly wrong are only mostly wrong, right? Even a broken clock is right twice a day. Or as my dad likes to put it, a blind hog will find an acorn every now and then. That's a little harsher, isn't it? if that sounds like a good idea, if you want state government to move in that direction, then I want your support. Because that's what we're gonna get with me as governor, with this legislature. Everything's gonna have to be done with common sense. So, if you like that, then please vote for me. But I don't just want you to vote for me, and if we win, say, you voted for me, I want you to say, I was a part of that. I contributed to it. I helped. 3 things you can do to help, no particular order. Number 1, donate to the campaign. If you have donated before, thank you. You may now donate again. We use your donations to air our ads. You may notice sometimes we're spending our money to respond to the lies from my opponent. He was running ads so dishonest that actually the news anchors, when they saw their words get taken out of context, made a whole separate news story about how dishonest his ad was, because it was that dishonest. So far, he's gotten 2 things right about me. I can skateboard and I do like pizza. Please do donate, please do volunteer. If you're willing to have conversations with people that you know, or people that you don't, or if you're willing to call people to tell them to come to my town hall when we're coming to their town, all of those things are things you can do. If there's something else you want to do, sign up to volunteer and let us know what it is that you want to do. We'll put you to work. We can use your help. 3rd thing, social media. Social media is kind of the plague of our time, except it's like a plague you feel like you want to get because everybody else has it, and then when you get it, you're like, actually, this is terrible. Why am I doing this, right? Social media is shortening our attention spans, it's filling our heads with lies, and it's making us hate people that we love. But while you're there, please like and share my posts. It helps people get to know me a little bit better. If you see somebody lying about me, don't touch their posts. The only thing that a social media platform does, if you comment on a post or like it or share it, is it shows it to more people. So take that little bit of anger when they're lying about me and come to my page and share 20 of my posts instead. Share so many posts that your friend texts you. Did your Facebook get hacked? It's all Rob Sand posts. I was going to learn more about the guy, and now I feel like I don't need to know anymore. I'm going to vote for him. But are you okay? Does your credit card have any unauthorized transactions on it? Right? That can help us too. There's all kinds of ways to help. We want you to help every one of these ways. If you can only do one, then do what you can, please. As my grandma Verna used to say, all we can do is all we can do. I want your help though. I want us to get back to that feeling that we get when we're at a table with people that we disagree with and that sometimes annoy us, but that at the end of the day we recognize as being a part of our lives that we live together. Let me ask you a question. How did we get so far into the partisan abyss that candidates think it's an effective thing to run around and tell us that they're going to make a place blue or red? And somehow that's supposed to mean something to us. Do you ever think about that and stop and go, whoa? Because if not, let me remind you, blue and red, they're colors. I can't believe where we are in our politics right now. When I send my boys out to school in the morning, I don't tell them, be blue. Because that would probably be one of the dumbest and most meaningless things that I could say to my children who understand it would have no meaning. And yet politicians say that to us like it's supposed to somehow be inspiring or meaningful to us. I tell my kids things that everybody in the state tells their kids. Be good. Do your best. Respect your teachers. Help your classmates. Be honest. These aren't values that belong to one private club or another. And I'm really tired of being in a place where people will tell you that they are. Because that's not Iowa. We need to take our government back from the people who want it to be about private clubs and make it be about all of us again. The only way we do that is together. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you.